Last night, Tesla shares closed lower than they have in a long time, and people are wondering, is this the end? Is this doom and gloom? Is this the end of the road? Where are we going from here? How much lower can it go? Is it time to panic? Is it time to sell, or is it time to buy? Well, I'm trying to give you a no-nonsense answer to address these questions head on, so we're going to take a look at how far it's fallen, why, and what is going on, and what could change it. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futurasa. So before we get started, I did want to say that if you're here to spread hate in the comments, watch the video first. That's all I say is watch the video first, because I get a lot of these where you clowns come in and just want to regurgitate the same things. Half of them were addressed in the video that you're responding to. I can only present the information. I can't make you absorb it. I can't make you understand it. I'm not a cheerleader. I've never been a cheerleader. I will cheerlead when the technology is good, and I will criticize it when it's bad. That makes me a little bit unique. When there are big issues that spill over into my arena from the other arenas like politics, well, I have to address them. I don't like to. It's not my idea of fun. But when politics gets so messy that it affects production and deliveries, well, that's you dragging your issues into my world. I have to address them. To fail to address them would be irresponsible, reckless, and stupid. If you want to just call it a swastika, congratulations, I did it for you. Save yourself the time. Those comments are automatically removed. No one will ever see them, and it offends me. Not because of the Nazi thing. It offends me as a comedian. It is the laziest, dumbest nonsense you could ever imagine. Do better. Do better. I get it. You're trying to be funny. You're trying to be edgy. It fails. Don't do it. Well, I'm just a pumper. Brian's just a pumper. He's pumping his own stock. He's pumping up the stock because he's stuck. I'm not stuck. The majority of my shares were bought at around $13 a share. I'm okay. But this isn't about me because I can't touch my money until I retire. And despite the elderly looks about me, I am not close to retirement. I'm taking a long horizon and I'm doing fine. And I'm honored and flattered that you think that I can actually move the stock market on a $500 billion, $2 trillion market cap. But I assure you, I do not have that power. But thank you for your tremendous misunderstanding on that. And I am not paid by Tesla. Anyone who's been here for any amount of time knows that famously, I don't even get invited to events. I've never been invited to a product event, and I have tried to get into all of them for the last 5 years. If they know who I am, they don't like me. So if you wish to troll someone, maybe find someone who's a more appropriate target. I don't know who that would be, but I'm on the side of truth. And if you think I'm your enemy, then I would argue that you're the enemy. Your real enemy is truth. So let's talk about the stock itself. Oh boy. Closed down almost 18% over the last 5 days. The 1 day was all of it, really. So that's not great. 1 month, not looking much better. 6 month, ooh, nope, that's bad. No gains in 6 months. Year to date, worse, of course. 1 year, aha, finally some green in the chart. Well, that's not great though, because if we go all the way out to 5 years, we'll see that we've lost years of gains all the way back in. We're down from January of 21. That's unfortunate. The company's done a lot to execute since then. That's unfortunate. This is a big, big problem. There are people who are telling you to buy, always buy. I don't do that. I don't ever tell you to buy. But I certainly, I don't even buy when it does a big jump. I don't do that. I don't have the money to do it anyway, and I'm not a trader. I don't trade in and out. I find that behavior to be reckless and irresponsible, and something that I do not have the temperament for. It would eat me alive. I would always think, what if I'd have just sold a little sooner or later, or bought a little sooner or later. I don't have the patience for that. I will not try. These are not good ones. So where's the bottom? I know a number of people who sold out of their shares, some after the election, some when it hit the all-time highs. Maybe they're thinking it's time to buy back in. Is this the bottom? Could it go lower? Yeah, it could absolutely go lower. Could it bounce back? Yeah, there could be an announcement today that makes it bounce back. I don't know what that announcement is. Maybe it's getting FSD approved in more places. Maybe it's that level 5 is actually ready. Maybe it's the new models. It could be any number of things. What it sometimes is that causes it to go up is no news at all. I don't see that happening because it's a little different, and we'll get to that in a minute. So what are we looking at? What's different? There are economic headwinds this time. Dow tumbles 900 points. NASDAQ suffers worst loss day since 2022 as recession fears erupt. What's happening? Well, GDP was expected to rise by 3%. Now it's forecast to rise by -6%. It's going to go down by 0.6%. What's causing this? Well, unemployment numbers are at a big high and people are afraid to purchase. And these new tariffs are causing already things to rise in price. That's inflationary. And you can argue, well, no, but we'll get that money back. Okay, but it's inflationary. And inflation without deflation, inflation is permanent. A 3-week sell-off market intensified Monday with investors worried the tariff policy uncertainty would tip the economy into a recession. These are headwinds we did not have last time. And when it comes to the company itself, it's a little worse because some of the issues that are creating this are within the government agency that Elon himself controls. There's a reason CEOs are generally not brought in to run government agencies. That's not a thing. I'd said before the election, Doge would be toothless, and I was wrong. Doge should be toothless. Doge is supposed to send reports to Congress for them to consider things, but they're not. They're doing the actions. They are slicing and dicing, and a lot of it is not going well. You can argue, well, they've identified fraud. Okay, if you say so. They haven't. They've identified spending that people think they don't like. But if it's approved, I mean, there's a definition. There's a legal definition of fraud. And anyhow you slice it, firing hundreds of thousands of people on very, very short notice is chaos for the economy. Introducing tariffs on all 3 of your biggest trading partners is market chaos. The market hates that. So if I was a big fund manager, I don't know where I'd be storing my money right now. Maybe in cash. I have no idea. Long-term securities, but maybe not in the U.S. I do not know. We've got new headwinds, fresh headwinds. Will rates go up? Will rates go down? Will costs go up? Spoiler alert, yes, costs will go up. This will be an inflationary year unless demand collapses to a degree that destroys the market, destroys the entire consumer market. Not great. So this time could be different. It might not just bounce back. Well, the market, buyers have a short-term memory. Yes, they do. Dieselgate was terrible. It took time for Volkswagen to recover from it. People had to forgive and forget. But the first element of forgive and forget is they have to forgive, and you can't do that until the apology happens. Whatever the apology is, whatever it is that made the bad thing happen needs to stop. And many consumers see the bad thing as Elon's involvement in Doge. It's not necessarily true, but if consumers believe it's true, it is indiscernible from truth. It is their reality. So that makes it difficult. I do see people sometimes saying, well, you know what? If you whiners don't like it, sell me your stock. I'll take your stock. Right. Well, the market's open. You can buy all the stock you want. You don't need my stock or his stock or his stock or her stock. It doesn't matter. What you need is shareholders are allowed to hold their investments accountable. That's why shareholders are permitted to vote. That's why shareholders can reach out to the board of directors. That's why shareholders get a shareholder meeting once a year. The company is supposed to listen to the shareholders. Tesla has had big shareholders, big investors who routinely voice displeasure about one aspect or another of the business. Should they sell? No, they were instrumental in keeping the share price high when the company was in danger. Don't say that. Well, he's saving free speech. He's keeping America from going bankrupt. No and no. You may believe that, and that may be your truth, but that is not the truth. Platforming people that you like, restoring the kind of speech you like, does not mean that speech is free. Speech is still not free. It is a private platform. It was never under those kinds of rules. Free speech is about the government stopping you from speaking. And that, by the way, is not going well. Well, the government was going to go bankrupt. That's not how governments work. Our credit rating is now in danger. Let's not increase the likelihood of bankruptcy. It's still a very, very low risk. Those are not sufficient reasons to make half the world hate you while you're the CEO of a publicly held company. Maybe not the best thing to do. So let's get into what's going on. It appears to be the Nobel disease. The Nobel disease is a unfortunate phenomenon by which, and this is anecdotal, of course, this is not a scientific thing, but there's a habit among some Nobel laureates to believe that because they won a Nobel Prize in one category, they are automatically qualified to be thought leaders in every category, or at least categories in which they have no business doing business. Politics is a very fine art, just as business is, just as inventing is. It is rare to find an engineer who is also a good CEO. Those two styles don't always overlap. Sometimes they do. It's pretty rare, but it can happen. Often you'll see someone who is an engineer who tries to CEO, who tries to execute like an engineer, only to find that people are not parts. They're different. They're fiddly. You can engineer a process, but engineering people is a different thing, and it doesn't always work. Politics is different from business. If you run your business like politics, you will fail. And if you run your politics like a business, you will fail. This is not, this is causing problems. Trying to identify deep waste and fraud from a spreadsheet is nigh impossible. And if you're someone who works with spreadsheets and you don't believe me, I would invite your plumber to go over your work and find errors and motivate them highly to find them. They're going to find some. They're going to invent them if they have to, if you motivate them properly, or I guess in this case, improperly. Nobel disease. It's tough. So what do we got going on? What's the fate of the stock? What are we getting at? 2024 was a bad year. There was no growth. We could say, well, there was the Model 3 changeover at one factory. There were some other headwinds. Whatever the case may be, growth was not there in 2024. In 2025, will we see growth? Maybe, maybe not. If we don't get the new intermediate model and it isn't compelling, we're not going to see unit growth by sequential growth. If robotaxi comes out in limited numbers or no numbers, they will not move the needle sufficiently. And I'm talking the Cybercab itself, but really any robotaxi. Tesla could manufacture and keep those Model 3s and Ys for their own fleet. They don't have to sell them. They could just make it work. So that could happen. That could be a thing that happens. 2025 might not be a record year. Even if all of those things go right, the economic headwinds created in part by the CEO could have a substantial negative impact that could force the company into another year of stagnation or negative growth. Those are not ideal, but they're well within the realm of possibility, and we need to be aware of that. So could the stock go down from here? Absolutely. The very high stock valuation that we saw was based in large part on an expectation of future earnings. Those earnings appear diminished. We are seeing the automotive side struggling. Megapacks are going to have some great numbers out this year, certainly out of Shanghai. Next year, we'll see growth out of the third Megapack factory in Texas. But those will not necessarily offset all of the losses in automotive, and certainly not right away. It's tricky. It's tough. There's a lot to consider when looking at 2025 numbers. When Elon decided he was going to lend his full-throated support for Donald Trump, I told John from Tesla Owners of Silicon Valley, I will have to go back and revise my projections. And he said, revise them? Why? I said, because there are buyers who won't like this, and I need to consider it. I didn't know how deep the impact was going to go. It's gone farther than I expected. So it's causing some issues. One thing I've seen from the darkest, most evil cynics out there, or cynical demons, call them what you like. I'm rooting for Tesla to go to zero, so that'll bankrupt Elon. It will not. That's not how that works. What that would do is just put 130,000 people out of work. So that's not great. Well, they should have worked somewhere else. Where? Where else can you replace 130,000 jobs? That's not using your noggin, guys. And if Tesla goes to zero, genuinely zero, shuts the doors, never makes another car, Elon will still be the 8th richest person in the world. And it might be higher than that now because SpaceX's valuation has not fallen in recent days, where the valuation of those ahead of him on that list may have fallen. So he would still have enough money to never think about people like us again. You don't need to hurt Tesla's employees to make him feel it. He feels it. He knows. He understands. There's an interview just last night that I saw on X where he was pressed on one of the Sunday news shows about how do you deal with running a company while dealing with all these other things. He said it's difficult. He said not well, I think is what he said. It is difficult. It is not an easy thing to do. Well, he's going to go actually broke6because if the Tesla shares get low enough, all the loans that he took out against his Tesla shares will be called in because, they're on their margin loans. I'm not aware of any such loans. He used to have those, but he paid them all off when he did the execution of the stock purchase last time. So I don't know that that's a thing. I don't think it is, but certainly he would be able to survive that just fine. And he can survive it because he's got all the money. What about us? Do we have all the money? I'm doing all right. Are you doing all right? There are people who have invested in Tesla over the last 4-5 years who are not doing all right, who are underwater. Are we concerned about them? I am. I think they got the short end of the stick. Tesla doesn't need to advertise. Elon doesn't need to care what he says. Things are just that good. He does. He does. He does. There are events that I help coordinate where guests that we booked a year in advance have backed out. Now, it is because of scheduling or, there's always a reason, but I've never had guests back out before. And it is clear what's going on. There are people who will still suckle at the teat of Tesla. When Tesla throws them a bone, they will show up and gather the milk for themselves. But when we turn it around and say, now we need you to come out and show us some love for the community, they go, wow, I am just really busy. And the Tesla owners clubs are losing members who are saying, I'm out. I'm just out, man. This behavior is affecting the company. It's affecting it. He is unfocused. X was hacked yesterday. The Starship had another catastrophic failure. The stock is sliding like crazy. Is it possible he's got too much on his plate? Yeah, it is. I mean, he will tell you that if you work for Tesla, you do not get to have a second job. Really, he doesn't want you to have a second life. He doesn't want you to have your home life. He wants you to give all you have. And then he wants to phone it in. Well, the company runs itself. It doesn't. No company runs itself. You need a CEO. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. John Schnatter, Papa John, who was fired from his own company, is excited because he can now say what he wants, is I think what his words were. And maybe that's not the takeaway. John Schnatter, Papa John, if you will, former CEO and chairman of the board of Papa John's. That's not the takeaway. I'd like him to focus. I'd like him to focus on anything, any one thing. But you can't focus on everything. If you focus on everything, that's not focusing. That's the opposite of focusing. So will the board of directors step in? It is clear they will not. I think if the board of directors is unable to have this conversation, they are not a board of directors. And if they are having this conversation, it should be communicated because these are difficult times. Pensions, hedge funds, individuals in their retirement are bleeding from the eyes, panicking, and there's no reprieve in sight. There's no end that is apparent to the damage being caused. So it is something we need to consider. And I am willing to speak to this insanity. I am among the few channels who will actually stand up and say the uncomfortable thing, the unpopular thing, the thing that can actually cost me money. And this does cost me money. Supporting Elon costs me money. speaking out against Elon costs me money, but I have to speak the truth, and that's where we are. If you choose to support me, I thank you. You are not required to. You're not even required to like me, but if you really, really hate me, definitely leave a comment, because all of those drive engagement. So thank you, you silly goose. So yeah, where will it rebound? What can cause it to rebound? Well, like I said earlier, announcing new models, announcing new pricing, announcing a departure of the CEO or a return of the CEO. Any of those could have a dramatic impact. He could say that he is burnt out and needs some time at a medical facility to get his head straight. That's not uncommon, to face burnout for whatever medical reasons may ail you. So that could be a thing, because his behavior is not what it was just a few years ago. Maybe age is catching up. Maybe a lack of sleep is catching up. Maybe being in a bubble that is impenetrable and filled with yes men is catching up. I know I'm not getting tickets to events. I know it, because I will say these truths, and I will not stop saying these truths, and it makes me despised by the radical left and the radical right. But everyone in the middle seems to appreciate it. And that's great, because if everybody hated the truth, I'd be in the wrong business, and I'd go back to doing something that's more fun. If not more rewarding, it would probably be both. I'd go get a day job and then have more fun hobbies with all the free time I have. Who knows, man? So it could rebound today. It could rebound tomorrow. It could rebound in 6 months. But the idea that it would rebound never is approaching zero. The idea that they would go bankrupt is nonsense. They've got $36 billion in the bank. That is not a recipe for bankruptcy. So guys, what did I miss? What did I misunderstand? Leave it. Try and be civil. If you can't be civil, be clever but devastating. And if you can't be either of those, at least be quiet. And stay tuned, stay juicy. I cannot wait to hear from you clever subscribers in the next one.